welcome to our practice today. We will be taking a little look into what opposites mean for us. And some of you might be aware that we believe, in general in yoga at least, that energies are always balanced. It's only us that aren't aware of that, really. And maybe the learning about the opposites draws our attention towards that. And in the end, we're leaving quite balanced and centered. So that's my hope. Now, to begin with, I'd ask you to come down onto the floor and even lie down onto your back. While I might not do some of the things today, because of dizziness, you may do all of them as I explain them to you. Having said that, please do take care of yourself as always, and make sure that the practice I talk about is suitable for you in this moment. As you come to lie down on the floor, maybe choosing a very comfortable position to rest in. A potential to even close your eyes. Allowing your body to feel a little bit more easy on the floor. And beginning to notice everything that you experience at this point in time. This everything is, for example, the ground underneath you. Quite hard, I suppose, that you're resting on. And on the contrary, you might feel your clothing very softly touching your skin. You might feel that there are spots in the body that are quite challenging at this point. And you might find spots within the body that just feel comfortable. Drawing awareness now to the flow of your breath. The in-breath, the cooling, energizing sensation. Your out-breath, the slightly warmer, maybe releasing sensation. Staying with the sensation of your breath. As you take your next inhalation, filling up your belly, your lower ribs, taking the breath to your collarbones. There's an option here to pause. And then breathing out from the belly to the ribs, to the collarbones. There's an option here to pause as well. Breathing in fully, belly, ribs to collarbones. Maybe a pause and noticing how that pause feels before breathing out again from belly to ribs to collarbones. And maybe there's another pause and you feel into that. Allow yourself just another 2 of these deep breaths, drawing awareness to the pauses and how the pauses are feeling for you. There might be quite a difference between holding the breath after the inhalation in comparison to doing so after the out breath. Once you've completed those breaths, keep your body restful. If legs out long is uncomfortable, you might prop them up or simply bend your knees. Indulging in this time in the grounding of your body. Feeling the connection to the earth. Bring in a sense of length in the spine. And even if that's by reaching out through the crown of the head. And feeling into the crown of the head and its reach upwards. Returning to the awareness of your breath. These spaces between the breaths we have explored that even occur when we're not concentrating on our breathing. Keep your attention for a little while as you breathe on the spaces between the breaths. Relax into the flow of the breath, though. Just a focus now on the pauses, no active holds. Just noticing what you experience throughout every single day, every moment you are awake or sleeping even, but are just not aware of. A space, a kind of a void, stillness, space between the breath. You might like to keep a general awareness of your breath as we begin to move now. If you do have a block or a cushion within your reach, you might place that by the side of your mat. There's no problem if you haven't, it's all possible to be done without. As you lie down on your back now, bending your knees, letting your arms just generally drive a bit open, shoulders relaxed on the ground. And you might like to move your knees with your out breath to your right, with the in breath to the center, with the out breath to the left, the in breath to the center. As you move your knees from side to side, you can be comfortably lying on your back and just doing so. I'd ask you next to roll your knees over onto your right hand side and let your whole body follow lying on that side. Extending your arms out at about shoulder height in front of you and touching the palms of the hands together. As you might choose to take your gaze or drishti to the hand on top. On the next inhale, you might like to slide your hand up the lower arm, brush across your chest, and extend over to the other side into a twist. While your knees might be open, your shoulders could be grounded. Then take a breath, lift your arm back up to the ceiling, and bring your hands back to touch. We'll do that one more time. On a breath in, let the hands slide up the lower arm, brush across the chest, and move across the body to the other side into a deeper twist. With the inhale, lifting the arm again, and with the out breath, touching the palms together. We'll go for another 2 rounds, but you might choose now to take a breath in, circle your upper arm over the head along the floor, and come with the same result into a twist, maybe with a deeper extension. Let's lift the arm up again to the ceiling, inhaling and touching the palms together as you're breathing out. One more round, maybe your arm is circling over the head as you breathe in, and over to the other side as you breathe out. Hold yourself here and let your shoulders soften to the ground. Taking your head into center and allowing the knees to do the same. As the knees come back into the center, on your next out breath, let them roll to the left. Maybe your whole body rolls onto the left-hand side. You might extend your arms again at about shoulder height. The palms of your hands could touch together. On the breath in, the upper hand slides up the lower arm, brushes across the chest, and then extends over to the other side as you breathe out. Inhaling, lifting the arm to the ceiling, and exhaling to touch the palms of the hands together. Repeat that one more time. On a breath in, slide the hand up your arm, brushing across the chest, extending to the other side. And inhale to raise the arm to the ceiling. And out, breath to release, palms touching again. 2 more rounds. You may choose to reach your upper arm over the head along the floor as you breathe in a half circle, but coming to the same twist on your out breath. You might still lift your arm up, inhaling and touching the palms again on the out breath. 1 more round, breathing in and out to relax into the twist. Let your shoulders soften. Let's bring the head back to center and then the knees. Placing your feet down onto the mat. I will demonstrate that with socks off for a little bit better grip, just in case that applies to you. Placing your feet down at about hips. You can stay lying on your back here, nothing has changed. Your arms might lengthen along the side of the body. With an inhale, tilt your pelvis so your spine is now flattening out onto the ground. And with the exhale, begin to squeeze your buttocks up into the air. Now take your block, if you have any, or your cushion, and place that directly underneath the sacrum. Supported bridge position if it suits. No props available to you. You might lift your hips actively. In that case, drawing your tailbone towards your knees. If you are supported, you can let your arms soften and just enjoy the back bend. Allowing a few more breaths here. If you feel very tight around your hip flexors, you might use this time in the rest of a bridge to extend one leg out onto the floor. Maybe experiencing the length coming through the front side of the hip. Always taking care of yourself. If that's not feeling right in your back, you might rather step the foot back down. We'll do so now anyway, as you slide this foot back down onto the mat. If you did choose to extend, let your other leg extend out now. Maybe experiencing length over the front. As you step this foot back down onto the ground, make sure that the feet are hip distance apart. As you take your next breath in, squeeze your buttocks up into the air. Remove anything that you might have placed under to support. And then take a long out breath to roll down onto the mat. You might, once you're lying again on your back, open your feet out to mat distance and temporarily let your knees fall inwards to release the extension. Find more comfort. Separating your knees and an option to hug the knees into the chest. Give them a little squeeze. And you might respond to that in the form of potentially rocking from side to side. If that feels good, you might choose to roll onto your side or rock forward and backwards. Any of that, just to take us into a seated position. Now, of course, no one necessarily needs any support to sit, but it is my preference and it might be yours as well. It's just gets the hips to feel more easy in these shapes. Please adjust the shape if it's not easy, because the name is Sukhasana, which means easy pose in some translations. And if an easy pose isn't easy, we'll find one that is. Let's draw the shoulders up and roll them back and down, and find yourself more centered, seated over your sitting bones or what you are sitting on. There's a breathing practice that's inevitable when we're looking at opposites, and that's Nadi Shodhana. Love to add a few rounds of that. It's alternate nostril breathing. For that, you might use your right hand thumb and ring finger to close off the nostrils. You might use your index and middle finger to place between your eyebrows, or you can fold them into the palm of your hand. With the other hand, maybe supporting underneath your elbow. So when we come into this seat, sitting nice and tall and upright, the technique might not be perfect for everybody, nor is any posture. So if you feel this is too challenging for you, no explanation for yourself needed, come to visualize the practice instead. We will begin by closing the right nostril, ever so gently pressing against it. Inhaling deeply, maybe from belly to collarbones through the left. Open your right, close the left, and exhale through your right nostril. Inhaling right nostril. Open your left, close the right, and breathe out your left. That was the first of one cycle. Inhaling left. Exhaling right. Inhaling right. Exhaling left. I will leave you to it for a little while as you inhale through the one side and out the other, back in through the same and out the other. Allow yourself to notice that the spine is always upright, and if you've had a tendency to lift your chin or to drop in, adjust yourself occasionally to that upright position so that the breath and the energy can actually flow. As you alternate your nostrils, you're naturally focusing on two sides, the left and the right. The different qualities of those sides, the more feminine, the more masculine side, and somewhere there in the center, the breath is switching over. Maybe as you breathe, you can explore that too. I'll leave you with it for a little. When your next exhalation happens through the left nostril, resting the hands back down, but keeping eyes steady or closed. And simply observing yourself once more, now completed. Sensations in the nostrils, left and right. The body on the left and the right. And yet, perfectly centered. So take your next breath, let your arms reach out and up. And on the out breath, placing your hands down in front. Maybe leaning towards the front if that suits, just to remove any devices you might have placed underneath your body. Changing our position very slowly, as is my pace today, into a standing position at the front side of the mat. As we come to stand here, Grounding through the feet. You might step a little bit from side to side there to feel the feet really grounding down into the mat. Letting your toes spread out into the ground and maybe giving the shoulders a little shrug back, turning the palms towards the front for a mountain posture. With the inhalation, then raising the arms up, maybe lifting your gaze. On the out breath, draw the hands down the midline, bending your knees and folding all the way down into a forward bend. With the in-breath now, lengthening the spine forward. Your arms might today just hang down underneath your shoulders. Keep a little bend in your knees, engage your lower tummy, and really try to straighten the spine forward. Also lifting the shoulders into the shoulder sockets. Then a breath out to step the right foot back into a lunge. Collapsing the lunge as we breathe in. And rolling it up into standing, breathing out. Lifting the arms on the in-breath for a high lunge. An option to interlace the hands and bring them behind the head. As you might do so, bend into the back knee, lean the head into the hands, and really lift from your sternum. Holding the balance here. As you next inhale, extending your arms back up towards the ceiling. On your out breath now, releasing your hands down onto the mat. Stepping your foot back into a downward facing dog. You're always welcome on your knees if you need to be. All hips are reaching up and back. And you might find a little walk out here of the body. Walking out to the legs, the arms maybe, turning the heads. Then settling yourself into this down dog. With your next inhale, create a rolling movement forward, finding a plank or a kneeling plank. With the out breath, elbows by your side, lowering slowly down onto the front of the body. A choice here, a cobra, as you lift the head and the chest gently, inhale. With the exhale, release back to the mat. Inhaling, come onto all fours. You're welcome to stay here like myself, or tucking toes under in a downward facing dog on the out breath. As we spread our hands out onto the ground, deliberately leaning the weight to the bases, the pads of the fingers. Now, walking the feet back to the front side of the mat. When you get there, try another half lift without any support. Of course, if it's required, press fingertips into shins or thighs, but maybe you can hold yourself, knees a little bit soft, belly a little bit on, and the shoulders drawn up into the shoulder sockets. Exhale and let that fold forward. The knees might be soft and you could take a hold of the opposite elbow now and allow a little swaying movement from side to side if that works for you. As you let the swaying stop, long, slow out breath to uncurl the spine into a standing position, and then reaching the arms back up on your in-breath, maybe even lifting the gaze here. Out breath, release all of this into mountain pose. Noticing how you're standing on your feet now, and you might close your eyes or steady your gaze to explore these possibilities. As you might feel the feet back on the mat, solidly standing, and yet the crown of the head is actively reaching upwards. With the inhalation now, lifting your arms back up. Touching the palms of the hands, soften your knees, draw the hands down the midline, back into a full forward fold. And you can play with your half lifts now. So if you feel it's nourishing to unsupport them and make them more active, please do. With the next out breath now, let your left foot step back down the mat. With the inhale, collapse your lunge, including upper body. And with the out breath, start to uncurl the spine back into a standing pose. Reaching your arms up on the inhale. And you might choose to interlace your hands with the other fingers on top, placing the hands back behind the head if that suits. You might hold that interlace here and actually lean the weight of the head into the hands, beginning to lift here from the sternum, opening the front body deeply. Back knee is in a light bend here to lengthen through the lower part of the back. Only the heart is reaching upwards. Next breath, you might lift your arms again. On the out breath, let your hands release down to the mat. Step that back into down dog or forwards. You might settle yourself back in. Maybe there's another round of movement occurring in your position. Then, as you next inhale, roll the spine forward again into a plank or kneeling plank and breathe out to lower onto the mat. On the inhale, find a gentle cobra again or deeper extension if you wish. On an out breath, release to the mat. On the inhale, come onto all fours and you may stay here or tuck your toes for a downward facing dog. Allow again a breath here where your knees are softening and your tail is reaching up. And then begin to walk your feet all the way to the front side of the mat. There's time for another half lift here. If you enjoy them unsupported, take your time. And a breath out to let everything go and fold back forward. Your choice again, knees bend, reaching for the opposite elbow, but now changing the arm you had on top. And you might add another little sway. If the swaying from side to side feels nice, but you would like to try something different, you could sway forward and backward. Then let the hands fall back to the mat and wait for your out breath to uncurl the spine back into a standing position. Reach your arms once more up as you inhale, and then let your arms release down by the sides on the exhale. You might allow your shoulders a little shrug again, feeling once more into the groundedness of the feet. We will place the hands now onto the hips. And as we shift the weight lightly to the left foot, lifting the right knee and extending the toes back down onto the floor behind you. And then landing exactly there as you bend your front knee. Squeezing your feet inwards. And maybe bringing the hands to touch at heart center, just an option. Maybe your arms are extending in this warrior one shape. Maybe the hands are drifting apart. I'd ask you to keep that little pull in the feet. Leave the arms up if comfortable, otherwise hands at the heart. And take a note of how your shoulders are feeling. Can you relax the shoulders here? Doesn't mean we're pulling them down, nor does it mean that we're necessarily lifting them up. There's a little bit of everything. Now with your next inhale, pushing the back heel off the ground. And with the out breath, Let your arms reach around, letting your right hand come into your mudra, index and thumb touching, palm facing up. Do the same with the left hand and place that above the head. Bring a bend into your front knee, and you might then bring the other leg up, pointing your toes. Everything here is floating. That's a dancing Shiva position. You will know in a little while it has to be Shiva today, as we hold our balance. Landing the foot down and releasing the hands back onto the hips. Making sure the shoulders are easy, the feet feel reasonably grounded. Shifting your weight over to the right foot. Take time to raise the left knee in front. And then extending your big toe back. Keep a bit of distance between the feet. And then land all the way on your back foot by bending the front knee before squeezing the feet inwards towards each other. Hands might change to Anjali Mudra in front of the chest. An option to extend the arms up. And then beginning to feel the shoulders. Do you feel compressed around your head when the palms are touching? Are your shoulders squeezing into your ears? How would that change if the hands were separate? Or does it feel easy with the hands apart and you enjoy the touch of the palms? How does that relate to the sensations in your shoulders? As you breathe in, lift the back heel off the ground. Bring the hands forward and down, taking your left hand, index and thumb touching on both in front of you, lifting the right hand, palm facing up over the head. Then a bend into the front knee and maybe lifting the leg from behind, pointing the toes and opening your knee out to the side. We're holding here again, dancing Shiva. Landing the foot and releasing the arms back into a mountain pose. I will ask you to change the positioning on your mat. So you've got enough space for wider stance. You might like to face the long side of the mat. Turning now your right toes out towards a short end of the mat. And the left heel towards the other. Placing a bend into the front knee for warrior two. So when we come to stand here, I now notice my stance is fairly short. I feel way too comfortable. So I will widen my stance and sink a little bit deeper. Doesn't mean anything for you, but an indication that you might need to adjust your stance, either wider or closer. Your aim might be to place the front knee over your ankle joint. On the inhale, then turn your gaze forward and lift your arms out, shoulder height to complete the warrior two. I will draw your awareness as you bring your gaze forward over the fingertips, back towards your shoulders. Are your shoulders at ease here? If not, you might turn the palms to face upward. Warrior two, as you leave it here on your in-breath. And then on the out-breath, leaning your forearm into the thigh, and you might swing the other arm over the head. Too much, place the hand into the side of the waist. Now I'd encourage you to really lean down into the thigh bone and make it the middle of the thigh, actively pressing your forearm down and forward, creating a lot of strength here in the lower side of the waist. Upper shoulders back and open, and the outer edge of the foot is grounded. Let's roll the arm and shoulder in, lifting yourself back up to the center, and we're swiveling the feet around. So now the left toes are turned out to a short edge and the right heel to the other side. The stance might be fine here as you bend your knee and place it back over the ankle. You might actually take a look here that the knee does align. Oftentimes we forget the arch of the foot and then the knee goes inwards. Next, in breath, turn your gaze forward and lift your arms up. As you might lift both of your arms up, check in with the shoulders again. Have you taken the same choice as on the other side? Are you drawing actively on the stance? How does the posture feel? Do you feel strong and supported by yourself? Let's breathe in. And then breathe out to lean the forearm back down onto the middle of the thigh. You might swing the other arm over the head or leave the hand in the side of the waist. Please try the same here, actively pressing the forearm down into the thigh and forward towards the knee, while grounding to the outer edge of the foot on the other side. There's quite a few points of sensation in the side angle pose of Parsvakonasana. Now let your upper arm roll inwards. Turn your toes back towards the long side of the mat. And with that, your feet are coming parallel. You might place your hands back onto the hips as we've done before in the Warrior One. Take a breath to draw the elbows, the shoulder blades together and puff out your chest. And then bend your knees deeply and start to fold directly from the hips. You may, of course, go all the way down if you wish. You might try and keep the hands where they are to open your chest and squeeze back. However, if that's not feeling good, it's not the main reason of the pose, you might release your hands somewhere else, such as the floor or the feet. Let your knees be rather soft and lean the weight forward in your feet. Notice how the tailbone then lifts a little bit further towards the ceiling. And now lengthen your out-breath. Just that. All there is to do. Long, slow breath out, deepening the shape. With your next breath, come into a kind of a half lift. Whether you're floating that or you're supporting against the legs is up to you. Lengthening your spine back out towards the front. Include your head, maybe really supporting against the thighs as you're reaching forward. Then bend your knees and round your spine all the way up to a standing position, your feet together. Let's turn the palms forward, steady the gaze or close the eyes again, returning to mountain pose, regaining that sense of connection to the floor, even if that means you need to step or wiggle the feet. And as you feel grounded through the feet, you're reaching up through the crown, the knees might be soft, the pelvis at ease. As you breathe in and out, maybe noticing which nostril you're breathing through at this point. You might notice, unless the nostrils are generally blocked, that you're breathing more through one than the other. Simply a practice of awareness as that changes without our doing almost every 90 minutes throughout the day. And the next inhalation, let's reach the arms back up. Now draw the hands down the midline as you soften your knees back down into a forward fold. Stepping both feet back down the mat. You can choose a down dog or a kneeling position. And a breath in, rolling the spine forward, coming back into Kumbhakasana or plank position. Kneeling, just like myself, is fine. On your out breath, keep your elbows close and come to lower all the way down onto the front of your body, even resting the forehead down. Grounding down actively now through the tops of the feet, leaving hands under shoulders and elbows by the sides. Take a breath in, lift the head and the chest for a cobra. Making sure that your lower back in particular is feeling great with the pose, otherwise going lower. Those of you feeling fantastic in the backs could leave the shoulders down and push the hands more into the floor, deepening this back bend. Still, the knees are almost off the ground. One more breath, and then lie back down onto the belly. You stay lying on your tummy and lengthening the arms down along the side of your body now. Turning the palms of the hands to touch the floor. You might then roll from side to side, as for some of you, it could be possible to get your arms underneath the body with the hands touching the ground, and even your little fingers coming close or touching. Not so important, but the palms down is. You might have either your forehead resting down or your chin onto the floor while you're on your tummy. And then take a breath in to raise the right leg away from the ground. Just the right leg, leaving your hips on the floor and extending right back into your toes. Out breath, release your right leg. In breath, lifting your left leg up. Do the same here. Keep the pelvis grounded, extending the leg actively towards the back side of the mat. Exhale, release your left leg. Option, a short round again on either side, if that is what is your practice today. Or on the next breath, lifting both legs. Upper body stays down, so the chin might be resting on the ground, so is your chest, but your legs are coming off the floor. And the same here, reach back or even press the palms down into the ground and make your hips lighter. Here, the hips could lift off the floor if it was possible. See if you can hold that. And then exhaling as you release both legs back down, rolling from side to side to remove your arms from underneath. Then place your hands back underneath your shoulders and take a breath in to carefully come to all fours and breathe out to sit your buttocks down to the heels for a child's pose. You may support this child's pose like I am supporting my head to avoid putting it low. But you could also drop your head to the ground and even have your arms extended along the sides, hands next to your feet. Allow a little bit of roundedness through the back. If you need any gentle wiggles through the pelvis, please allow that. And then a long, slow out breath to uncurl the spine. Coming into a seated position with the legs extended out in front. We will keep it very simple here too. If you do have a bolster or a blanket handy, you might place that underneath your knees. Sometimes it's enough to just have a little towel rolled up to be underneath the knees. I will place that there. And you could also choose to support the seat itself as I am currently rolling up the end of my mat. Alternatively to any support, could you bend your knees a bit more and we'll all flex the feet. Round your fingertips down and have a little shrug back of the shoulders, sitting upright, staring at your toes, breathing in. On the out breath, carefully leaning the belly towards the thighs. You might then bring the hands forward, and you might slowly release your body into the seated forward bend or Paschimottanasana. Your head might reach towards the legs, but again, keep your shoulders in their sockets. There's no need to touch anything in particular, but to release your back forward. What is important is to maintain a flexion in the feet with the toes pointing upwards. Lengthening your out breath now, as you might indulge in that forward bend. Noticing if your mind and emotions are responding to moments of stillness. With your next inhale, reach your spine a little bit longer, maybe lifting a bit out of the pose, and then exhaling as you slowly rise back up into a seat. Let your legs relax and maybe even coming off your seated support. I will suggest legs up the wall pose or Viparita Karani. While you are aware that I won't demonstrate that, you might find your way back with your body sitting hip on the side to the wall. If you don't have a wall near you, you could do that freely in your space. I would suggest to have a little pelvic support, especially if you stay lying on the floor. If you're going against the wall, you might prop out something underneath as well. So if you find yourself sitting by the side of the wall, just carefully rolling down onto your back and lifting your legs up the wall, resting the heels against the wall. Your upper body might then become easy. If you choose to practice that in the middle of the space, the feet are down as you lift your hips up, and then drawing a block or other support underneath. So to raise your legs up into the air more comfortably. It gives the pelvis a little tilt, so there's less effort also to hold the legs up there. I suggest to make this as comfortable as is possible for you, especially if it's free flowing. Get as much of a tilt of the legs in towards you in, so that there's the least effort of holding the legs in the air. If you're resting against a wall, there's no problem here. You can just simply let your arms open and relax into the shape. Allowing here for a little while to rest. If at any point this gets uncomfortable, please come out of the shape earlier. If you're against the wall, that would mean you hug your knees to your chest or roll to your side. If you're happy here, stay, breathe, and find ease. The Parvati and Shiva love story. A powerful stage of embodied enlightenment. They represent the inner journey to wholeness. It's a metaphor for the cosmic truth that reality is a duality and that in unity it is a dance of polarities. And that's what we're dealing with every day. Shiva and Parvati, also called Shakti, represent the divine masculine and divine feminine as cosmic energies that reside within us, both men and women. The concept of Shiva and Shakti can take us beyond the polarities of gender, as well as the limited and screwed cultural definitions of masculine and feminine. It can take us beyond gender wars into understanding the divine feminine and masculine within men and women. It shows that if any one side of ourselves remain in the shadow, we do not live a life of fulfillment. As many of us know, when we fall in love, there can be a mirroring of falling in love with those qualities that we haven't as yet discovered or grown in ourselves. If there are imbalances in the masculine and feminine within, the potential is for this to play out and project into our relationships with others. Well, you might like to reflect on the feminine and the masculine energies. Allow yourself still to be restful here. Preparing, however, to change position. As you might, no matter where you are, carefully bend your knees towards your chest. If you're freely in this space, you might step your feet back down hip distance, lift to a gentle bridge, release the block and roll down. If you are against the wall, you might roll onto your favorite side. Maybe even take yourself temporarily to sit, but only to align yourself into Shavasana or resting pose. And for that, you could place bolsters underneath, find your comfort, have a little cushion under the head, a blanket over the body if that suits. And then just simply lie on your back, let your arms go, let your legs go. As you find your time and space to lie yourself down onto the floor, you might indulge in a few wiggles. Wiggles of your shoulders and wiggles of the pelvis, so to get a sense of them kind of easing into the relaxing pose. Once you have found your way there, the obvious can occur, closing the eyes or steadying your gaze. Lying down in Shavasana or alike, begin to observe the different sensations in each side of the body. Begin by bringing awareness to what is arising as you do. You might now visualize the left half of your body as Shakti, feminine aspect, and the right half as Shiva, masculine aspect. Imagine that the left half of your body is filled by the divine feminine as goddess Parvati. Sense the qualities of the goddess in that half of your body: beauty, devotion, playfulness, charm, sweetness, nourishing love, tenderness, carefulness, feminine strength. Imagine then the right side of the body is filled with divine masculine in the form of Shiva. Feel his energy in your body. Sense his qualities of stability, steadiness, penetrating intellect, clarity of vision, peace, vastness, ruthless swiftness, masculine strength. You might now let your attention move from the feminine side to the masculine side of your body, noticing the differences. Feel these two sides of the divine nature held within you. Sense them held in balance in your own body. The masculine and the feminine in union within your body. Balance of masculine and feminine in your own being. Knowing that these aspects of you are always there, no matter whether you're aware of them or you aren't. As we find harmony by bringing awareness to the opposing sides, here comes another idea from our card for today. It is from the healing card deck. And it says, speak or act with negativity and pain follows. Speak or act with a pure heart and happiness follows. Again, we're looking into some opposites here, which links this card to our practice today. And it suggests, be mindful of being positive in all you say and do. Know that each of your thoughts and deeds has the power to heal you and those around you. So watch them closely without judging. That takes some work. So embracing those opposites to get a greater understanding of how you use your words and actions. For now, you might choose to begin some movement again and deepening your breath. As you might have done so, you could choose to roll over onto your side or even sit up over the front of the body, joining me in an upright seated position. You might join the palms of the hands together and pay attention how that feels. Left palm touching right, right palm touching left. As we join those two aspects of ourselves, the thumbs might attach to the sternum. We'll tune back in with the divine energy by chanting 3 rounds of Om, our universal sound. Your eyes might be closed as we breathe in deeply for the first round. Right there in the center of our heart, everything's connected and in balance. From that place, with the light bow, we're extending to each other. Namaste.